All right. As you see, the description of this is going to be a rough draft of my thoughts and so forth, so I can come back, watch this video, take notes. But like I've said in the past, while I'm developing some of these courses, I'd like to put some of the content on online as well. So I probably won't put the refined content online for like YouTube or whatnot, because I mean, I'm trying to make a buck here. Uh, but you'll get a lot of access to my thoughts, my notes, these rough drafts, and so forth. And generally speaking, it will be roughly the same content. Maybe not in depth as much because I haven't gone back and refined it, or maybe not coherent enough. So again, rough draft. Okay. Again, this topic is a divorcee's guide to information security. The purpose of this course that I'm creating is to help people going through divorces, and I don't care if it's male or female, uh, look at their data from a health perspective, right? And I'm not talking about just like their physical health, but it might be part of their mental health, but also just their data health and how some of that, in some regards, how that data can be used against you. A lot of times, it won't be just the your former spouse or the spouse that you're divorcing as being the adversary in this. This is one of those topics that I'm going to touch on tonight with this. That this is not your spouse or former spouse that's going to be your adversary here. And then what I'm talking about here is this part of the topic will be online dating. All right. So I started up another Twitter, or not Twitter, Tinder profile. Again, for the basic parts of just researching this. Yeah, of course, if there's that like 1 in a million chance I find a woman out there to enjoy my time with, so be it. But the odds are stacked against me, so and that will be part of this messaging as well. Uh, okay, so some of the things I'm going to touch on is why be wary of dating sites. First and foremost, why do people go to dating sites, especially after they're divorced? I would say first and foremost, it could be loneliness. And talking from experience, one of the loneliest periods of my life was when I was married. So I can understand that. You're lonely, but you're caught up in life, caught up in this and that, and yada, yada, yada. And finally, you feel free to explore that. Well, people can smell that loneliness on you like a baby's dirty diaper. Okay. The second part of it might be now you feel free, you feel excited, and so forth. Or you've been married to somebody for X amount of years and this and that, and now you feel like you have the freedom to explore something that you either explored a long time ago in your life or you never got a chance to explore, and you're trying to find out if the grass is greener, right? Uh, and we're not going to really touch on too much on the people that are just hypersexualized anyways. I mean, I don't think this really that matters to that group of people too much, because chances are they're getting a divorce because they were already hypersexualized and there was already a lot of sex, extramarital sex in the relationship. So this topic doesn't really pertain to those people. This topic pertains to people that look at dating sites as a fountain of youth, as a newfound resource, and so forth. And I want to let you know how you can be exploited. Now, for purposes of the demonstration, and I will go through this in the course, is that I think it was a week ago Friday, or a week ago last Thursday or Friday. I have to look at my emails. I matched with somebody on Tinder, knowing that and the profile is pretty much kind of generic at best. At best, it's generic, and and I tried to portray uh, neither strength nor weakness. I tried to. It's very just kind of generic. It doesn't really say anything, right? It says enough to where it sounds like I'm trying to convey who I am, but it really doesn't say anything, right? And it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that like most people, aren't, are going to get excited about, and that's going to be part of this as well. Because when you look at it, like statistically, 2/3 of all users on Tinder specifically are males, right? So only 1/3 of the users on Tinder are female, and then knowing that 80% of the females in that 1/3 of the space go for only like 10 to maybe 20% of the males out of that 66%, right? So there's a very small amount of males, and nailing just about every female in the Tinder space, right? So that means a vast majority, almost exclusively, none of the males on Tinder are doing anything. And but they're buying subscriptions and so forth and everything. So rule number one, I'd say don't buy a subscription, especially if you're male. And I'm not sure. Maybe I should try to set up a female profile and to see what that looks like. Or find a female to actually help out with this endeavor. That would be a very interesting thing too. That's a good idea. Take a note on that. Kind of funny. I actually matched with a woman local to me for whatever reason. I don't know. I think it's because we're both like in the same kind of realm of career and everything. We're both roughly the same age and so forth. And she's so, she doesn't respond back. It's kind of funny. I messaged her with this, gave her my phone number. I said, if you're curious if it's another scammer or not. And I said, no, because I have other side hustles. But the ironic and the kind of funny part about this is like, we have like one or two messages right in there, and I'm automatically trying to get her off the platform, giving her my phone number, right? So that's a classic sign of a scammer, and we'll get back into that. And with that, I'll also demonstrate this. I'm not going to demonstrate this on here now because I'm not prepared for that yet. But I will demonstrate this through the emails or anything. And my intent was to find a scammer like this. And because it's very easy for a guy to find a scammer. So I had a very generic profile. It's not too hard to act. Oh, lonely, I suppose. Maybe if that's the term, lonely. I have to think about that. Or overly pleasing. Let me turn my radio off here. Turn it down at least. Men can be overly pleasing sometimes. They want to show that they can, especially coming out of divorce. And I know this from firsthand experience because I got divorced like 8 years ago. You want to feel like you're still a man, right? So and I'm not talking about just sexually. You're talking about the ways that you just innately want to protect and defend and so on and so forth. And, I know it's a very sippy behavior. However, guys coming out of an extreme situation like a very lonely existence of being married, then getting divorced, and then even though you're the one that may have instigated the divorce, it would have overall when it ended, it leaves you with this big mountain of now what, and it takes a while to sort that out. So I probably need to talk about the sorting out part as a preface to this. So keep a note of that. Anyways, the general preface of the scam here was first and foremost, my goal here was first and foremost use VPN. I was jumping all around the country and selecting girls from Ukraine or Russia, right? And now they'll from Ukraine and Russia on here. Yeah, absolutely. But there's also a general knowledge that a lot of guys are seeking women either from the Philippines, which there are a ton of women from like Indonesia, Philippines, and Russia and Ukraine specifically. And because everybody talks about this, especially in the manosphere, about the more traditional women, and guys coming out of divorces want to find that more traditional woman, right? Potentially, probably. That was my idea on this. So I figured I'd play the guy that's just divorced, going out there looking for this and whatnot. And I think this woman that I paired with on Tinder here, I might actually introduce her to this video and see if she's willing to give me some intake on this. And then of course I'll have to pay her for her time. Hopefully she'll take it after I've sold some courses or give her a percentage of it. But anyway, it would be interesting to see the woman's perspective on this from a woman's perspective, not me just creating a woman's profile and pretending to try to understand this, because there's a different perspective of how, a woman's thought patterns it would be very helpful in this regard, I think, especially the dating sites. That being said, if you're a woman watching this, which is suspect at best, you're watching the caveman talk, then give me your inputs on this. And worst comes worst, we'll talk about some ideas. Anyways, note number 5 here. Quit rambling so much. Be more concise. So take a note. All right. I went out and found a scammer. So this whole conversation has been going on for, I'm not going to show my screen or anything like that. I messed up for that. The whole thing was going on for approximately a week. I think last Thursday or last Friday. I have to look. Anyways. Now, the one benefit I have is I'm a security engineer. I'm a pen tester. I've got a lot of tools at my disposal, and some of those are facial recognition tools. And there's a subscription to a service that I pay that gives me facial recognition pretty good. It's not 100% good, but it's really good. So it lets me see what I do is you give me a picture of somebody, or hopefully like a batch of pictures, and I'll go online and use these tools and see if it brings up any websites, any hits and everything. And then I'll open those up. And it's kind of funny. It's almost suspect that the people that they choose, especially like on the Telegram folks and on Tinder, is that they'll pick somebody that is somewhat famous, but not really famous, but they'll use a different name. They'll have a different backstory and so forth. They don't use this person's real life. And so far, what I've been noticing lately is that they're using people's Instagram profiles, the pictures from the profiles, when the profiles are kind of set to restricted or whatnot. So this girl, her pictures are being used. This woman, I should say, she is Russian. And so forth. And you can definitely tell that. But this is, she's from a different city, has a completely different career, does a whole bunch of stuff, and so on and so forth. I did request access to her Instagram, and if I get a response back from her, I'm going to tell her the story on this and why, and I'll even show her the pictures that I've got. So this started off with a nice to meet you, yada yada yada, and immediately the subject, the antagonist of this, we'll call the antagonist Olga, automatically wanted to move to an email, take it off the platform, right? So that's suspect area number 1. They automatically want to take it off platform, which ironically, I did the same exact thing, telling this woman that I'm not a scammer. Let's take it off platform. That was inadvertent, by the way. I just thought it was kind of funny. Second, you're going to notice that because I did another scam story, because I had this idea for this class about 9 months ago, and I did another scam story, I think about then, maybe a year ago. I'll have to look back because I did make a video about the first experience on Tinder. I think maybe that was like a year ago or 9 months ago. And anyways, and that's where they're really good at, the storytellers on the other side, the antagonists, know how to pull on the heartstrings of a guy. They know how to exploit the feelings of a guy. And those feelings usually come from wanting to feel useful, right? A guy wants to really feel useful. And so the way they're exploiting the guys this way is by, how should I say this? They're exploiting guys like not letting the guy know he was useful, but automatically making him feel special, I guess, and giving him a lot of credit for pulling her out of her shell and all this. And it's I would succinctly say this is like it's love bombing, but it's a complex love bombing if there's such a thing. And that's sad. There's a little thing. 32-year-old Saturday Night Live comedian dies suddenly after. Anyways, but I think it's a complex love bombing where it's not so overtly love bombing. It's giving somebody 1,000 different reasons that they really appreciate them all at once. So you're not really focused on one topic, you know. Whereas like your traditional love bomber is going to like after the second day, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you're like, Jesus, get the hell, you know. Now you feel kind of trapped in. Like, man, I don't even know your middle name, you know. I'm not sure if I know your last name, and you know, and they're already planning on, you know, the white picket fence and all that other nonsense. You're like, okay, Roger, we need to move. So that was part of one of the story. Like automatically this and way too much information, like way too much information. I think the first email of the first day. Let me take a look. I want to say it had something like 15 pictures attached. Let me go ahead and search all related here. Where's my search all related? Let me go back here. This was Monday. This was Friday. No, I guess it was going on for a week and a half. So, okay. No, I guess so. The first email, she, you know, protagonist comes back with like 4 pictures. The next day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pictures. Now, when they're starting to go through all these pictures, one of the things that you can do, and the antagonist on this one did a really good job of scrubbing the metadata, but you can look at the metadata on here. Now, I'll make sure to post a couple tools on what you can use for like looking at the metadata of pictures. But really, at least in Windows, and I'll go over this on the Mac side, is that you can just right click on a picture and hit detail or properties, and then go to the details tab, and it'll tell you some of the statistics about the picture. If it's geotagged, it'll tell you the geolocation of that, which is another thing I'll mention in a different aspect of this class, but not really related to this. It'll mention the date that picture was actually taken and so on and so forth. So day 1, day 2, hey, here's all these pictures of me. I just took this picture of me this morning. This is me at work and me drinking coffee. And you look at, and you know, and the backstory on this one was she took all these pictures and yada yada yada. But then some of the pictures they hadn't scrubbed all the metadata off of, and they were taken like last fall, like between like July and September of last year. And there was a lot of these pictures all kind of grouped in the same time frame. So, and then some other pictures were 2020 pictures as well. So that goes on down the road. So she's going through this whole thing, like, you know, basic telemetry, like, you know, staying up late, doing this and that. You know, it sounds like a real person. Here's the things that I find interesting. And then it leaves a lot of things open-ended too. So that's a really good way of getting other people to talk, right? Is being open-ended in your communications. So the antagonist in here, me being the protagonist, by the way, I'm the main of this story. Anyways, the antagonist in this talks about dreams and this wishy-washy stuff and whatnot, and really, really like feminine stuff and whatnot. Me, for my part, to play along, I play along at a superficial, but how should I say it? Superficial, but bordering on deep, right? So one, I have to go through, like I said, I'll put this all together for the class. But let's see. I'll tell you about me. I hope you find this interesting. First and foremost, her name. I'm a big dreamer, this and that. But, I've always wanted to travel, but I never have. Pay attention to that because, they're keying this up. And we didn't get this far in this story. I called it quits after today because I think I have enough. But pay attention to when automatically they're prefacing, I've always wanted to travel. I never did, this and that, yada, yada, yada. And now I'm trying to find my way in the world. They're keying you up to start sending you money. I think this is the part of the scam here. They just want money. And knowing that, you're in a different country, you're going to have to pay for visas and this and that and travel. And if you haven't traveled to other countries, especially when you need a visa to travel to that other country, you need to book reservations for hotels or places to stay for the entire trip that you're there. Even if you're going to go stay with a friend in that country, they don't care. They want to see that you have a place to stay. So you have to reserve hotels and stuff for hundreds or thousands of dollars. Because if you're going to be for like 3 weeks, you have to reserve a place for 3 weeks, even though you don't have any intent of staying there. And then air travel visas are expensive. Those are running a couple $100, and so the expenses do kind of pile up. So the little thing is saying, I've always wanted to travel and never have or anything. And this is like day one, maybe day two of the messaging here, is that you're being keyed up already. Oh, I want to travel and I want to be helpful, right? I'm a guy, I really want to be helpful. And she's going to really talk about the sweet spots here. Okay. And that's why I've always liked your country. I hope I can visit your country soon. I have no foreign acquaintances at all. So she feels like she's alone, this and that, yada, yada, yada. But this is my first experience. I'm terribly interested to see how different we are. Opposites attract, which is bullshit. Opposites do not attract. I mean, magnetism, in physics, opposites can attract through the magnetism. People, no. Opposites is oil and water for people. So she wants more photos, yada, yada, yada. My part of the story was like, here's a couple photos of me. The same ones one of them I put on from Tinder. And another one, the second one I sent her was me looking like a goddamn ape here. And I just got done working out, because I'm trying to unfat my ass. And then I've also not trying to, I'm going to. Let's keep that good frame. And then I had to go out and work out in the yard. So I was working out in the garden, did a little bit of mowing. I had to tend to a couple things, come back in, I look like, somebody that I just wanted to ask you about squealing like a pig and playing a banjo and shit. Right. So that automatically should have been a picture of like, fuck no. Right. Fuck no. But it didn't, so that was one of the key indicators too, is when I'm showing her and I'm looking like this crazy mountain man that, is covered in sweat and I got grass on my hair and my hair is even worse than it is now. I'm starting to look like aliens, and she's like, oh, I love your eyes. I'm like, that's the only thing you fucking see from me is my eyes, because the rest is just, unkempt hair. Anyways, as an indicator, getting compliments for something that you should obviously not be getting complimented on, right? That was, and let me see if I can find that picture here, because it was, where's the photo? I didn't save it in this folder. I made a profile folder for this antagonist, but Olga quotes. Anyways, sorry about that. I'm looking at my mustache. Got a little vodka. All right. So that was another indicator, is that something that I should have probably made. If I was going to show a picture of that to somebody, they were either it's kind of an intimate picture in a way, not like sexually intimate, but like a friend that should expect something like that from you, or somebody like, a girlfriend or something like that that already knows you and they already know that you're a hairy bastard and you haven't shaved. Well, I haven't shaved here in like a week. I'm gonna make a little video straight razor shaving. Besides the point. Or like I haven't had my haircut since end of March, right? I am kind of growing it out a little bit. I haven't done that forever, so I probably hate it, but I'm kind of annoyed by it now. I digress. I'm talking about the intimate part of saying that you're probably already friends with somebody you're close to somebody to show them a picture like that, especially after you just got done working out for an hour, then going outside and working out in the hot sun for an hour, and then you come in looking like, a pissed off fucking moonshiner, from Kentucky. That should that's a red flag. So I want to put that towards the end as what can you do if you're telling you if this is a scam, or maybe an indicator, maybe this other person, maybe they really do have somebody else and they are insanely desperate as well, which I would still say that's a warning flag and wave off the target. But don't be desperate. Don't go after desperate. If the other person compliments you on something that obviously should not be complimented on, wave off or know what you're dealing with at least, right? So where am I? So I sent the pictures and then, I did, I got an email every morning. I responded back about noon. Antagonist did give me a phone number. I could not find, that phone number anywhere in there. And I actually tried texting the phone number, but I never got anything back, And then the story about being in the city of Sarov, which the story of city of Sarov in Russia is it's an interesting plot twist because somebody thought about this, right? They're making a plausible story here. She's always lived in this town. Her parents always lived here, but now they live in a village outside of Sarov, in a quiet little village and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Then, they've tried to call you, and I do have my other phone. I give this phone number out to people I don't want people I want to ignore. But I gave her this phone number and to call and everything because just to see what happens. Give me a story about I can't call. Then I found out I can't call international, and that's because I live in the city of Sarov, and Sarov's got restrictions. If you don't, maybe you look this up, and Sarov has some, never knew about the city. It's pretty much kind of like an old Russian research facility for like nuclear warheads or nuclear, testing and so forth. And I guess it's still a restricted city. But it doesn't seem like, from looking at it, that you can look at Sarov on like Google Maps, and it doesn't look like they're in the city itself, that there's a lot of apartments or anything like that. It's just an industrial place. And there's certainly not a lot of stores, not a lot of restaurants, not a lot of anything to do, period. It's very, and if you read a Wikipedia page and whatnot on it, it's still a city that you have to have explicit permission to get into, even for the Russians, right? So there's all these villages around it, but there's no way you can get into. I don't think you can live in the city. So that part, when I did research that, at the prodding of the antagonist, was that, hey, what's up? I'm serious. And I went, okay. And I did, and everything. And it's like, and I looked it on the map and everything, and I tried to look at the Google Maps has got a lot better. I used to use Terra Earth for this, but Google Maps has gotten a lot better about giving you like better down to the ground imagery, buildings and so forth, and so on and so forth. Anyways, I looked it up and I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense that somebody's going to live there and she's like a manager of a store that sells curtains. I was like, so let me start from the very beginning. take a note on this. Take a note on this. The very beginning of the Tinder profile was somebody that was much younger. Wasn't her, the antagonist pictures. I've gotten like 20 of them now through the past week. It was somebody else, big bright red lips, much younger, probably say like ages 28 to 30, and so on and so forth. And it says from Moscow, Moscow, and hit that because, of course, you got a big-breasted, beautiful babe in Moscow looking on Tinder. Like, yeah, bullshit. But, and that's where the story begins. And then she automatically throws pictures, and I was like, I was using this and everything. So automatically, right off the bat, it's kind of a feeling out how comfortable you are with being catfished. And so automatically, she's throwing these pictures out that aren't her or aren't matching the Tinder profile, and a little story behind it. And I think this part is the gauging interest. We need to put this number one, gauging interest on how willing you are to accept a false reality. How much of this are you going to believe? And what do I mean by how much of this are you going to believe? I'm saying something like to the fact that my ex-girlfriend used to say this all the time. Not all women are like that. Completely agree. However, the quality I would bring up about her, like, whatever the quality was, she'd say, well, not all women are like that. And she's trying to make sure that I have the assumption that she means that she's not like that. But she doesn't say that. I used to actually ask her explicitly to say, you tell me that you're not like that. And she wouldn't do it because she knows that I get caught in a trap. She wants me to believe the truth that not all women are like that. But then she wants me to blindly associate her with the kind of women that aren't like that too, right? And we do this kind of by default, of manipulation tactic, and people kind of get boxed in with this, and gaslighters use this technique as well. It's kind of a slow progressional thing, and so on and so forth. I'll demonstrate that this was not a slow thing at all on our little email journey today, or this week. Anyways, there's an inference there that this other person wants you to make. And people are really good at convincing themselves of something. And people are really good at ignoring things that they know they should not ignore. They're like, people are really good at telling themselves, I should ignore this, but I won't. And it catches all of us. Even those of us that know to look for it, we get caught by this sometimes too. Because I think it's our human nature to want to believe somebody, right? We especially we want to feel attracted and attractive to somebody. We want to believe somebody, and then I think then we just make concessions for how should I say that? We want to make concessions for the person that we don't know based on our feelings of hope. And that's a good one. I like that. We want to make concessions for the person that we don't know based on our feelings of hope. Notice there's two words in here that you need to key in on. Feelings and hope. Feelings and hope are always exploited. They're not real, right? There are things that we tell ourselves, these little white lies, and then we set our goals and expectations, and we anticipate our feelings and our hope, and then our feelings are crushed and our hope is crushed when those things don't come true. And this is what that's exploiting. Refine that. Okay, so can't go back in time. How many minutes? We're probably about 25 minutes into this already. 35 minutes. Holy Jesus. Okay, let's move it on, Mark. All right, so I do want this portion to probably be a 1 to 2 hour course. So, like I said, rough draft. Let me give myself a thumbs up. Oh, I can't give myself a thumbs up. Damn it, Bobby. All right. All right, so we anticipated the phone couldn't work, and then the antagonist here uh, set up times to call 1700 to 1900 Moscow time, knowing that's about 8 hours ahead of us, ahead of me. So 1700 to 1900, that is like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Right. So just take 1700 minus 8. So 1900 minus 8, 1100. But calls never came, even though I explicitly said a couple different times, "Hey, call at your leisure. If I can't talk, I'll say so." Right. And then the next thing, I think this was like message 2. Yeah, message 2 already brought no message 3. Message 1 was really short and sweet. Here's proof of my real photos. Sending you a small message. Message 2 was the story, of wanting to travel. Message 3 was, all right, I'm going to spend the weekend with my parents, and I'm trying to determine whether or not I should tell my parents about you. We're fucking 3 days into this, guys. 3 days into this, and you want to tell your parents about somebody you met online, right? So now you're kind of getting pressured automatically. Now, I think this goes back from the day zero when you got kind of catfished on Tinder, and then they said, "Here's my real pictures, and here's my real story, and here's my real career," and you're supposed to, I think the reasonable person would say, "What the hell is this? This is nobody near, but they want to anticipate, or they want to see how willing you're going to help create that story in your own mind, and you're going to help create the story for them to carry on forward. So they're doing this. Hey, I watched this American show and this and that. I'm going to go to my parents' house, and I don't know. No, should I tell my parents about you? I'm really excited about you so far. We've only been talking for like 3 days, but I really feel this connection. Should I tell my parents? And it's like, well, and you play along with it too if you want. I would recommend by this stage you should already see like 10 red flags that you should have already avoided in this. But you haven't. You're still going to play along, right? But now you're starting to feel that angst of like, why the hell would somebody tell them about, tell our parents about me? We've been talking since like Wednesday, and so on and so forth. And we're already making this really serious. It's kind of like the first date picket fence girl. You're like, oh, settle the hell down, lady. But that's exactly what's happening here is that bum rush, that love bombing, and that feeling bombing, and that so on and so forth. So be aware of that aspect as well. Sales manager, this and that, YouTube, yeah, blah blah blah. And these little stories with like intimate little things here. Now, I'm assuming that either this lady's, I forgot her real name, Arena something. I mean, it's a real Russian woman. She's a poet and also a copyright editor in Russia, outside of Moscow. And the pictures I'm talking about, not the antagonist story here, but that. And on top of that, also, the English is really well. So English for Russians is really challenging. And when I said the backstory was, well, my mother was an English teacher. Now I've talked because I've learned a little Russian myself over the years, and I'm working on even learning even more because I enjoy it. However, I know plenty of people that are English teachers that are Russian English teachers, to include my ex-girlfriend, where she's probably the most clear Russian English teacher that I know of. And she still has she doesn't write English like an American does. My uncle's wife is Russian. She's been here for 25 years in the States, and her writing is maybe on par with this. So this is certainly not a translation like Google Translate Russian to English kind of thing. This is, I don't know how to explain it to you. and I don't know, this probably won't get into the class, but you can't learn the way we say things in English and Russian are different. First and foremost, English is a bear of a language to learn. And you will never know that until you try to learn something like Russian. And then you realize English has no structure and no rules to it, and it really, I think in a lot of ways, it kind of is kind of like the English culture, nobody knows what the hell to expect from us. Well, the same thing with we have like I before E, except after half the fucking words in the dictionary, right? So it's a rule that isn't really a rule. It's a rule that somebody made up that based on the Germanic words in the English language, except for, unless it's E before I, when it's like Heinrich, I'm rambling. It's late. It's 11:15. So scrub all that. Let's go back. Love bombing, whole bunch of things. Parents are being, whether I should be informed of the parents. Here's some of my good morning pictures, so on and so forth. Now, a side note with all these beautiful, beautiful pictures. I mean, first and foremost, the antagonist in this is not an unattractive woman. She's certainly not beautiful, but she's not unattractive. I mean, I'd classify her just like most women out there that are, thin and, keep themselves in shape and whatnot. They are attractive, So, but the thing is that she sent me so many pictures. I probably have 30 pictures. And for me, doing an analysis, facial analysis, and searching the internet worldwide for this face, that was a gold mine. That's awesome. Me, on the other hand, I sent 2 pictures and, one picture off of, it was already on Tinder. So it's not like I sent any pictures. Even when I was prodded, hey, let's get some, give me some more pictures. I'm like, I'm a guy. I don't take pictures. I certainly don't take selfies, which is true. I don't take pictures of me. So, because I don't need pictures of me, I'm like, hey, here's, click. Fuck that. And I understand a lot of guys may do that, so we'll scrub that part out or refine that. But I don't have pictures of me. But for the purposes of the story, I also didn't have pictures of me. Hence why I used the webcam to take a picture of, Mr. Banjo. Anyways, let's see. A little thing, good night's sleep, preferences, coffee, tea, this and that. Oh, this was the 3rd or 4th email. Let's exchange phone numbers. Wait a second. Didn't we already do that? I'll have to look back. And it is rare to find such an interesting man like you. Looking at your photo, I can honestly tell you are really different from the rest, and I like it. Yeah, especially if I can find that photo I sent, it's awesome. Maybe I'll find that photo and I'll make it the picture for this, because in no way was that picture flattering to me or to the male gender of my species. In no way. I look like they drugged me ankles first out of a debris shelter in Kentucky. So let's see, Mark. I still can't get used to the fact that you're from another country. Okay, so this is like probably the 4th email. It says we're separated by thousands. It feels like you're right next door. All right, so now we're building that, anticipatory. Like we already know each other. So we're 2 or 3 days into this, and it's like, oh, we already know each other. This and that, and yada yada yada. Just rushing it, just that, and yeah, here's the part of the story that you need to pay attention to. The part of the story that we do this in our own minds by default, I think. A lot of people do anyways. And also, this is the thing, like social engineers exploit this as well. And I used to be, when I used to do social engineering, I was very well aware of this stuff. and you exploit this, this nature. You let people fill in the blanks, right? So what I'm talking about here, what was I talking about here? I'll have to go back. Let me read this, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, mother's an English teacher, this and that. An endearing story about how her parents met, so on and so forth. I know how to point to that. Remember this. This was approximately 45 minutes into it. Okay. So I remember that. Where was I going with that? I'll have to look back and look this because I completely lost train of thought on that one. So, anyways, lots of pictures, a lot, trying to hairdos, this and that, yada, yada, yada. Oh, and then the questions I asked too, like there's one thing there. She's always wearing the same necklace, right? Same necklace in almost all these pictures, and these pictures span different environments, different, outfits, different days, different types of year. You can tell by the trees. And then one of the things is going to the Bolshoi, right? So the Bolshoi is a really big theater in Moscow. It's like, oh, I love going to things like the Bolshoi. I'm like, I don't think we have anything like that in America, period. But, we have coliseums, but anyways, let me see, where was I going with that? So I've talked about a few of the subjects about how they kind of grab into you. We fill in the blanks. That's where I was going with that. I know we've talked about that earlier before, but we fill in the blanks because of our wants and desires, our hopes and wants, right? Hopes and feelings, wants and desires. Yeah. First and foremost, I will say I need to put that at the very beginning. Let's take a note on that. At the very beginning. I can start here. Get rid of hopes and desires. This is a social engineering tactic that's used against you, but it's also used, and I know it's the same thing before as well with some of these. Like when I was looking into this class, building this class like 9 months ago, I just done notes on it, and found another scammer, and it's pretty easy to find a scammer, by the way. I mean, I think there's probably one scammer for like 1 to 2 every women, real people on dating sites. Maybe it's not that high, but it's pretty high a percentage because it's good money too. I would do it. Maybe I'll do that. I'll start up my own scammer business under the pandemic. Anyways, let's see, another letter. Good to see you. Finally got sleep. I like drinks, coffee and tea, this and this and this. You also notice that the English is impeccable. It really is. Russian pancakes, which everybody knows that Russian pancakes are called blini. Hodgepodge. Hodgepodge really isn't a Russian dish. Granted, it doesn't mean anything, I suppose. But tacos isn't an American dish, I suppose. Okay, next. Okay, emails, this and that. Tried it, else failed, this and that. Well, and then excuses as to why I can't take or receive calls, going to see the parents. Okay. This and that. Oh, and then bring in a friend. So this was another thing. So now you're being kind of introduced to the friends, the family, so on and so forth. This was Monday. I think it was Monday, maybe Tuesday here, Tuesday. I mean, you're already surrounded by friends, family, and you've been talking to somebody via email. You haven't even talked to them voice, just email, just for a couple of days. Her best friend's being talked about it, this and that. This was the best part, is that her best friend, being brilliant and smart, want to turn out, and it turns out there are many scammers out there. So she's describing to me all the scammers. Now, this is the gaslighting part, and this is where also you convince yourself that this is not real, or that you should. This is a road bump or speed bump that you should pay attention to. Right? One takes off your muffler. The antagonist in this story here is explaining to me the scammers, how scammers work, what it should be used to, or what I should be seeing, and so forth. But also being worried that maybe I'm a scammer and I'm trying to sex traffic her, like a mid-30s girl from Russia. I'm going to try to sex traffic her. I'm like, well, okay, maybe that's a thing. I doubt it, But I really enjoyed this email because I liked the irony of being explained to me the scams. Like, she's worried about me being a scammer, right? It's beautiful. It's textbook gaslighting, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool. So, and then it was like, okay, and then I'm happy and frightened by the paradox, and it seems like we just are still living next door to each other, and you bring life to my life, yada yada yada. More consistent love bombing. That was yesterday, and then today. No, that was today's Thursday, so that was Tuesday. Yesterday was about seeing all this, experiencing life, this and that. I've always wanted to get out of my own skin. I feel like you're the person that just kind of love bombing and telling you how great you are in this person's life. My axe in all of this too was to mirror the emails. Not so like love bombing, because I mean guys wouldn't act that way. I mean, maybe guys. I know a couple guys that would act that way, and that's why they haven't gotten fucking laid in years, because they act like girls. But anyways, and my response to this was to pretty much go down there, answer the questions like a checklist and so forth, and kind of be vague and generic about it, but at the same time, and whatnot, knowing that, and again, more pictures, and I can say something about the scammer on this. They did a good job. So most of the time, like if you use Telegram and whatnot, you'll get a lot of scammers on there, and you just do a facial recognition search to that person, and you're going to come up with, there's somebody like insanely famous in like fucking Venezuela or something like that. You've never heard of them, but they have like a daytime talk show and this and that, and like, oh, okay, whatever. Well, this person here, that's why I think this person's phone either got compromised. This woman's Arena, whatever her name is. Her phone either got compromised, or these are pictures all from her Instagram account, which I haven't gotten access to yet, as far as I know. Let me take a look. Request access, but right now it's not even like 7 a.m. Russian time, so who knows. 44 following. Yeah, I'm not following. And I follow car guys. Builds Yummy Park. Okay. Yeah, I follow some commentators on YouTube and car people. Mostly from YouTube as well, but they got cool cars and they do cool things. So no, I don't have access. The hope is that I match these pictures up with the Instagram, because the Instagram profile is private, and I guarantee a lot of these things are private from Instagram. But wants, needs, desires, betrayed to me, and me. That's one of the things you need to realize as a guy is like, what are your baseline default activities that you want to perform, right? This is how you're social engineered. you want to defend and protect women and please women, right? And you're hoping to get some of that pleasure back in return, and maybe some nurturing, some feminine energy around you, right? This is all an email. This is all putting out all the things that you can do to help, right? These emails have detailed a long list of things that, wants and desires, hopes and desires, hopes and feelings. I mean, this is all, it's exceedingly feminine. The hopes, desires, and the needs and the feelings, right? These emails, one thing is it's trying to, draw a picture of the person, but at the same time put out a picture of how feminine it is. It's oozing feminine with all the feelings and stuff like that, right? And guys traditionally ignore the red flags of when a girl is acting this way. Dating sites like Tinder is a great example of that. These girls come out covered in tattoos, face tattoos, neck tattoos, full sleeves, and this and that, tens of thousands of dollars of ink, looking like they just got out of a Mexican cartel jail, and and that should probably be, red flag number one. Red flag number two are saying you every guy probably has this girl on Facebook that will say things like, I just broke up with the 18th guy. I need to do something. I need to feel the pain. I need to get a new piercing, a new tattoo. I need to feel the pain. Fuck. Go walk out barefoot in the fucking gravel driveway, man. Don't, put more fucking shit on your body. But that's what they do. These are red flags. These are red flags of unstable women. Right? And I'm sure that there are these same analog red flags from guys as well, right? I don't know what they are. I could probably think of some, but I'm gonna try to find a woman to do some woman's input on this part, because I think especially dating sites and social media sites is important to have both parties involved in this, both perspectives, I should say. Anyways, guys fall for this stuff, guys. This is like your catnip. She's so feminine, and she's like beautiful pictures, and she's not even exceedingly beautiful. She's attractive, but I would say, 30 to 40% of the women out there are attractive. You don't go around slobbering all over all, and maybe if you do, but I would recommend that you don't. But so I guarantee if I walked past this woman in real life, before I've had 30 pictures from, or that I wouldn't have paid her any mind. Really. Wouldn't have paid her any mind. And nothing against her. It's just, there's nothing superiorly striking about her. And maybe that was the point. Maybe that's part of the ploy as well, the social engineering. She's not insanely gorgeous to where you think it's unreal. He's not like butt ugly to where you're like, you're trying to choke down bad medicine, right? You're like, oh, she seems so nice, but nice happy medium of a person with a good personality and this and that. So whoever the antagonist in this did a really good job of creating this persona. It's very refined. However, the red flags are still persistent, right? And you have to be a scammer. You have to work quick. You think of it from the scammer's perspective, and I'm only kind of extrapolating this because it's still a business, right? It might not be a legitimate business, but it's still a business, and they need to make money with the least amount of effort, right? And go back a little bit. Most of the emails don't. If you ask questions, the answers will be short and to the point. other things will be highly articulated, but if you ask a question, it'll be yes or no answers to it. Yes or no answers. It'll be kind of flavored in there. No, I don't have brothers or sisters. No, this necklace isn't special, even though that same necklace persists in every single photo. I'm like, well, then why? It has to, some of those things is like, somebody's wearing a ring or the same necklace spanning across tons of pictures. I'm like, oh, picture that necklace supposed to have meaning. Oh no, it's just a thing. I just kind of like it. Oh, okay, it should be kind of one of those bullshit flags. The brown flag on the play. You should be throwing that automatically. Like, this doesn't make sense. Don't be afraid. What time is this? This is probably about an hour into this now. Yeah, an hour and 26 seconds. Go back to the beginning of this and put that on there. Do not be afraid. Let me make even a note on here. Do not be afraid. Call off the engagement. And I'm not meaning engagement like you're trying to get fucking married. I mean you're engaging with somebody for the first time, whatever, and then you need to withdraw. Many people, men and women, have this, especially in Western culture, we have this propensity to run from conflict. So we'll stay in a painful environment for a long time because we don't want to have that conflict. And, if you're going through a divorce, broaden your horizons and learn to embrace conflict, learn to embrace direct thinking, direct speaking, direct action with other people. Get used to the idea of speaking your mind. And I'm not saying speak your mind like being a dickhead about it, but don't let bullshit persist when bullshit's there. Call it out immediately. And feel completely liberated in the fact that you're okay to do this. The world's not going to judge you. As a matter of fact, when you call out bullshit immediately, if there's other people listening to the bullshit, they're going to be relieved that somebody called the bullshit out, and it's going to empower them to call the bullshit out a little bit better, I think. Yeah, I've noticed this plenty of times. That you become like the center, you become that person that everybody's looking for inspiration on. Like, I can't believe you just said that. That's perfectly great. I would have had the balls to say that. Be that person. All right. I'm going to call it quits for the night. And I'm going to send this YouTube video to a woman that I have had absolutely no conversations with on Tinder, but she's local. She's an IT person. And what do I got to lose? What's she going to say? No. I want a woman's perspective on this. And I certainly didn't match her with this for this intent. However, if you're still watching this, information technology at government, that's my intent. Anyways, it is 11:40 at night. I'm beat. How do I quit this thing? Those are my show notes. I'll come back to this maybe this weekend and formalize some more of this. Have a great night.